Who were not able to hear at the beginning of my introduction, if you came a little bit after, again, my name is Cadelia Troublefield. I am the project manager for the Gwinnett County Disparity Study. Again, thank you all so much for being available to come out of your busy workday to this meeting. This will be an informational meeting and a public hearing session put together. So for the first few couple of slides, I will present some information about the Gwinnett County study. Just to give you a brief overview, the presentation is condensed, so we have enough time to allow everyone who would like to solicit any comment, to submit any comments, to have the chance to do so in the second half portion of this call. So I do have a few slides for you all. If you all would like to know more information about the disparity study, we do have a designated study website. And if you go to the website, the recordings to the informational meetings that we held previously, they are on the website. So feel free if you need more information after the information that I give you today, if it was not enough for you, you do have those other resources. But I will go ahead and get started. So first off, to just give you a brief overview about Griffin and Strong, we are a public policy consulting firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. We are a firm specializing in procurement research, training, and supplier diversity and consulting, also in contract compliance and program development. I would also like to point out that our firm is one of the most qualified teams in this industry, with 7 Juris Doctorates, 2 PhDs in economy, in economics, a PhD in social psychology, and a PhD in anthropology. So just to let you all know that we are very well versed in this field, and we do have many experts on our team, to let you know that we are in good hands. So what is a disparity study, you may ask? A disparity study, it is an objective research tool it's a creation from the courts. It determines whether there are disparities in a governmental agency's procurement activities with certain race, ethnic, and gender groups in the various industry categories. It further determines whether those disparities are statistically significant and likely caused by the race and gender status of firm owners. These studies, they measured disparities between the utilization and availability for race, gender, and ethnic groups. So basically just looking at the governmental agency spending dollars, looking at the utilization of the firms that they had been using during a specific study period, and then comparing that to the available firms within the business marketplace. Available firms defined as those who are ready, willing, and able. Disparity studies also utilize the acquisition of anecdotal evidence while examining current policy procedures and practices. In a law review, the findings of the disparity study may result in recommendations by the study team to remedy any disparities if found. The recommendations are intended to be implemented as policy if accepted by that governmental agency. So why do we do disparity studies? As I did state previously in the slide, disparity studies, they are a creation from the courts. The court system basically let us know about, what exactly how we could do in terms of the Croson case, how we could figure out how to find disparity studies within a governmental agency's system. However, it didn't let us know how to do them or what we should do. So disparity studies, they form the factual basis for remedial contracting programs. A couple of cases that set the precedent for disparity studies, that's the City of Richmond versus J.A. Croson case, and then the Adirondack Constructions Inc. versus Pena case. Disparity studies, they allow governmental agencies to have strict scrutiny for their race-based programs, or intermediate for gender-based programs. Out of disparity studies, it lets the program know that they must have a factual basis and evidence, and the methodology is dictated by case law. And when it comes to recommendations, the recommendations are narrowly tailored to avoid over and under inclusion of firms. And those remedies can fall underneath race and gender neutral or race and gender conscious. So the objective for this particular study that we're doing for Gwinnett County, the objective of the study is to determine whether there is the existence of discrimination and barriers for minority and women-owned businesses, so MWBEs, DBEs, the disadvantaged businesses, persons with disabilities, owned businesses, and small owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses, and the LGBTQ plus owned businesses, in government contracting and purchasing. So these are essentially the study groups that we are looking at for this study. So our process for the disparity studies, it's a very robust process that we do have, which is why our studies, they take about a year or so. We first start off with a legal analysis, basically looking at the law of the land within the certain jurisdiction that we're looking under, seeing exactly what the leading cases are in the circuit that you fall underneath and how they apply to your program. Policies and procedures review. This is basically a policy analysis where we're looking at Gwinnett County's policies relative to the study groups and the utilization of those studies groups. We're also looking at the practices that they have to see if there is that cohesiveness across the board of if the policies that they have, are they implementing them through their different practices and procedures that they have. We began to collect and clean the data. We have assessed the data from Gwinnett, and then we collect and we clean that. We then follow up with a relevant market analysis, which is just basically looking at the dollars that the county has spent, pulling it out into a 75% threshold to see basically where the county is spending most of their dollars, which helps us determine the relevant market. We then also have a private sector analysis, which is just us just looking at other factors or indicators that could potentially affect how firms may be facing any discriminatory acts. So looking at if there's anything specific, such as if it's their age, if it's the firm's experience, or anything of those natures, anything outside of race and gender, that would influence these acts. And then we have an availability analysis and a utilization and threshold analysis. And then a disparity analysis, which compares the utilization and availability. We also have a very robust anecdotal evidence collection and analysis, which we will be talking about today. All of these different analyses are then compiled together into a final report where we pull out some of the significant findings that we have observed over the duration of the disparity study process. We put them together, and then we also go into some recommendations, and we put that into the final report and turn that over to the county. Now, let's just talk about why you all are here. You all are here because of the anecdotal evidence collection that we do have, as I just briefly discussed. There are numerous ways in which we intend to reach out to the public to hear your voices. It is extremely important that we do hear from local business owners, which is why I'm so glad that we do have you all on the call today. Because of the disparity study that we will have and the results that come out of this disparity study will essentially affect and can affect the business marketplace that you all have. And so we just want to make sure that we're making this an equitable marketplace for you all, which is why we really are aiming to reach out to you guys and hear your experiences. We start off with informational meetings, which is where we inform the public of the disparity study and how they can be involved. We have anecdotal interviews, which is where we're meeting with businesses one-on-one to figure out their experiences and their exactly how their perspectives on how it is to do business or attempt to do business with the county. We also have focus group sessions, which are kind of like anecdotal interviews, but they're more formed in a group session. We also have business, civic, and trade organizational meetings. So this is where we're meeting with organizations that are hands-on with the business communities. This will be your Chamber of Commerce or any of the trade organizations that that the county may have, or even in the surrounding areas as well. we launched a survey of business owners, which has just been launched today, and I will share that link with you all. The survey of business owners just allows for us to figure out some more information about about the different business owners in the marketplace and get more information on our end in terms of helping us track the different trends that we're able to see over time. We also have the public hearings, which is what you all are a part of today, which is where we are giving you all the public platform to speak on your experiences. And then if none of these work for you, we do have our designated study email, and we do have our designated website, and then we also do have social media. And from there, you know, people can submit any comments that they would like to make. So how can you be involved? First off, you're getting involved today by participating, and I once again want to thank you again. I do ask as we switch over to the public hearing session that you be vocal, participating, which is what I said that you all are already doing, but further, we would love if you complete the survey and then participate in an interview or a focus group session if you're contacted, and then attend a public hearing, which is what you all are doing today. And then also just keeping up with the study to see what's going on and just to familiarize yourself with the disparity study process. We have here's that website and that email that I was just foreshadowing in the last slide. So also, I just do want to take the time for everyone to also just spread the word about the upcoming events that we do have. We have another public hearing session, which is set for next week on the 19th from 6 to 7. I have the link and the QR code here for people to scan. And then, as I did state, the survey is now live. So if you can just also just scan the QR code or go to the link inside of this slide here. Again, we would love your responses on this. And once you fill out the survey, I also want to add that you will be entered in a chance to win a $100 gift card. So I want to make sure I take the time to mention that. And then just to let you all know where we are right now, we started off in the spring in our initiation phase. In the summer, we've been very busy with our policy review. We've had our informational meetings. We launched our website. We had our legal review, and we completed the data collection from the county, and we began our anecdotal interviews. Right now, as we're wrapping up in the fall, we have launched the survey. We're completing the anecdotal interviews. We're having the public hearings, and we're also beginning our data analyses as well as the anecdotal and private sector analyses. Those are also coming up. And then in the winter time, between December up until next February, we'll have our focus group soon. We'll complete our data analyses as well as our anecdotal and private sector analyses, and then we'll begin our findings and recommendations process. And then we will hopefully wrap up in the spring of next year, where we will draft our report and finalize that with the county, and then review with the county, and then have presentations. So that essentially covers everything from the first portion of this call, which is to give you some brief information about the informational meetings. Would anyone have any questions before we hop over into the public hearing session? Because I do want to say that once we hop over into the public hearing session, we will not be taking any more comments.
I do have a question. Have you looked at disparity studies other beyond Richmond? And have you looked at other programs, let's say in the North, MBE, WBE programs that exist in the northern states?
Yes, ma'am. I would say that our firm, we have business nationwide where we've done disparity studies and conducted disparity studies in up northern states. And as I did say with our legal analysis, when we do our legal analysis, we look at the controlling cases for that certain circuit. So
Mhm.
I forgot exactly what circuit Georgia is in, but we have through our legal analysis, we have looked at the controlling cases inside of that jurisdiction, which helps us figure out, how exactly the program that Gwinnett County has, how it should be formulated, and
Mhm.
the methodology behind that. The reason why I mentioned the Croson case is because that set the platform and the precedent for disparity studies. That's where disparity studies were birthed out of. We do look at other controlling cases depending on the jurisdiction that we're looking into.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, and maybe I should just speak with you offline. I'm from New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
I am a retired business consultant for small minority and women-owned businesses.
Yes, ma'am.
Developed regulations for small minority and women-owned businesses on both the county, state, and both the county, city, county, and state level, which was successful. So I've been on both sides in terms of my business, as well as having been a business consultant, and being in a consultant capacity. We were very successful in achieving goals every year. And like I said, this may be something that I can speak with your firm, with you and your firm privately, maybe not in such an open forum, because we dealt with millions, multi-millions of dollars. Um, and I just to give you some insight into how successful it can be, or just to discuss successes I had in New Jersey, I could do that. Just to as a way of just assisting. That's all.
Okay, yeah, no problem, Miss Carson. If you do want to connect after this call to speak offline, I'm more than happy to do that with you. I could shoot you a message directly. I believe I do have your email,
Okay.
since you did log on. So we can definitely talk offline if you're wanting to do that.
Okay. No problem. No problem. Yeah, I just hate to see you all reinvent the wheel if you don't have to.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, I have
Thank
a question.
Okay, I have one too.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Mr. Colaren.
Yes, ma'am. Like to ask, where did the idea for this disparity study originate? Did it come from, was this originated by the Gwinnett County Commissioners? Are they the one that hired you?
So I cannot speak to this. I do know that the Gwinnett County, they did release an RFP and everything in terms of the disparity study. We are not a part of the county. We were just contracted to do the work. So I'm not exactly sure exactly where that conversation came from in terms of, who created this idea. I would say if you have any questions about that, I would say to be in contact with Gwinnett County itself.
Okay, and can I ask one other follow-up question?
Yes, sir.
Um, when you were contracted by the county to do this study, was there a amount of money that was designated for your firm to receive to do this study?
I
And
don't
is
think I
that public record?
Yeah, I don't think I'm within the realms to answer that question or disclose that information to you on this call, sir. I apologize.
Okay, so is the only place I can get that is from the county? I can't get that from your firm to know how much they hired you for?
Yeah, I would say if you would like to get that information, I would say to be in contact with the county.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for answering my questions. I appreciate it. Even though
Yes,
I
sir.
didn't get a question answered, I appreciate you giving me the direction. Thank you.
Yes, sir, no problem. And I apologize if I'm not able to give you full answers. I just want to make sure that I just stay within.
Sure, I
Mhm.
understand. I
Yes, sir.
understand, but this information should be public record. So
It
I can,
is.
if they don't want to give it up, I can go through the Public Records Act to get that information. Thank you.
Yeah. All you have to do is contact the economic development, under planning and development, because I believe they are the ones who initiated all of this and presented to the board. And so all of it has been presented in records. If you do a quick search, you should be able to find the public records where it was presented at a public hearing for the board members to approve this. But this is something that's been identified by the economic development team. And so I'm just helping you out with that. But I have a question for you, specifically about this disparity study. Because while you are doing a study to include the community, um, what I'm trying to understand is where are you going to be looking at as far as what's established in policy? Because a lot of the things that are going on with the community and the disparities is something that's been established, you know, from policy and ordinances that are already in place. And so how are you going to include that in this study?
Yes, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So as I did mention, I didn't go too much into detail, but when I did show you the slide about our processes in terms of the disparity study process, we do have a policy analysis or review process of the county's policies, which is where we do take a deep dive into the policies that have already been implemented and established by the county. I can't sit here and tell you what those policies are off the top of my head. But we also do have experts inside of our team who have taken a deep dive into the policies and in different, and also the ordinances that the county has. We also do interview with staff members inside of the departments that are included in the study. So I know that we interviewed like the purchasing department, finance, and then the economic development departments. These are like I'm just giving you examples, but these are some of the departments that we do interview with in our process when we're trying to figure out more about the policies that have been implemented and established. And then through those interviews, we also make that direct tie or connection between the policies that have been implemented and then exactly the practices and the procedures that the county has to make sure that they're aligning with their policies. Um, so that's essentially where what we do for the policy analysis. So we do take a really deep dive into the policies that the county already has, and then we further review through interviews. And then
Well,
we compile a chapter based off of the information that we receive.
okay, but the issue comes into play, and since you have done multiple studies, I'm sure you're already aware of that. There's a lot of things that fall in line with being able for individuals to be able to um, submit proposals or answer to RFPs. They have to have certain requirements to be able to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And so if that's established at a local level, the local level, it actually comes down from the state level. So if you have those individuals that are involved and you guys already have done this, it should be fully aware that some of these established regulations have already state imposed, you know, requirements, as well as the state has to follow some federal imposed requirements because the federal government is also passing down money to the state, where the state money is then filtering it over also into the local level. Now, I know that at the local level, we get, or the county gets money from our taxes. I understand that, but it's still, there's requirements. And so you're addressing this disparity study at the level where it's getting out into the community to do surveys and polling is what it sounds like, to understand what's going on and a needs assessment. But we're fully aware that there's going to be issues if, as far as with training. So how much of time are you going to be investing into, I guess what I'm trying to understand is the method or the strategy that you all are doing to come out and present what's going on when we really kind of already have an idea of where some of the underlying things are.
No, you don't.
Sure. Sure. Yes, yes. And I do understand your comments that you have made. And again, as I did say earlier, we do have a very robust process that where we go into the different processes for about over a year. And we do also look at what the state has settled as well, because we do know that in terms of for certain programs, for certain jurisdictions, whatever the state has implemented, they also have to follow those statutes as well. So we also do take that into consideration when we do our policy reviews. Again, as I did say, we did do a full deep dive into our disparity study process, and the recordings for those meeting sessions where we did go into that are available through our study website. I will drop the link into the chat after we at the end of this call, so you can be able to know about the different disparity study processes that we have, and it goes more into depth about those. Our director of research and methodology, she gave that session. So she goes more into detail about the different processes that we have. And there is an individual slide for each process and analysis that we do take inside of that presentation. It is after 1:30, so I do want to make sure that we have enough time for the public hearing session. There is a lot of folks on the call, so I want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to speak. So I would like to switch over to the public hearing session, if that's okay with everyone. And again, as I did state, I will drop the link for the informational meetings where we did go into depth about all of the processes that we have. I will drop the link in the chat so you all can make sure that you view those recordings. So right now, the virtual public hearing session I would like to start. The purpose of this session is to hear candid testimony about your experiences, both positive and negative, either doing business or attempting to do business with Gwinnett County. Everything said during this hearing will be available for public record, but GNS's final report will not publish the names, business names, or other affiliations of individuals who give testimony. We are not soliciting questions, but commentary only. Additionally, we will not be responding to questions or commentary other than to try to gain additional clarity to your comments. When providing comments, we ask that you please begin by stating your name and business name clearly for the record before beginning your testimony. Now, in terms of starting, the process that we usually do take is if you can just raise your hand. I know in this virtual platform, there is an option for you to raise your hand at the inside of the Zoom platform. So that is how I would like to start for those who would like to go ahead and speak. If you can, please just raise your hand. And again, we want to hear about your experiences doing business or attempting to do business with the county. And now we'll open up the floor. Not everyone speak all at once.
I was going to just say back to what I had mentioned before is the issue becomes as far as the requirements to be able to participate in any of the activities or the proposals that are being requested for by Gwinnett County. The bond rating and things like that, or the bond requirements are some complications for individuals such as myself as a woman-owned business. And then, as far as their grading scales, as them determining who would benefit from that. So that is one of my comments to make.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fellows. Would you mind stating your business name and also if you're certified, what certifications that you have?
Yes, I am. My name is Katrina Fellows, and that is the name of my business. I am a broker here in Gwinnett. I also do policy analysis, and so it's on land use, purposes. And so that's pretty much it. Certifications, MPP, and that's it right there.
Are you, I'm sorry, when I say certifications, I mean to say, are you minority owned, women owned, small owned? Do you have any of those certifications?
Yes, I have a minority-owned business, yes, but not certified as a women-owned minority business, no. Through the SAM.gov, yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Fellows. Would anyone like to go next, or would anyone like to add on to Ms. Fellows' comments regarding the requirements when it comes to submitting bids to the county? Does anyone have any comments they want to add on to that, or is there a separate comment? Again, not everyone speak at once. Um, I don't want to start calling on people, but I would love to hear from individuals during this time period.
Hi, good afternoon, Ms. Troublefield. This is Angela Graham. I'm with Graham and Associates. I'm considered in some of the local municipalities as a local small business, also a woman-owned business and a minority-owned business in the city of Atlanta. I have not had much experience working in Gwinnett County thus far, have had some meetings, but I thought maybe we could share some of our other experiences as well as
Yes.
you're developing this program from some of the other places where we've worked that have similar type programs.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, of course. We would love to hear that as well. If there's something that you have noticed with other jurisdictions that you've worked with that you would like to see Gwinnett County have in their program, then yes, of course.
Yes. So some of the things that I have encountered in most small businesses who do this work in these municipalities can attest to this. So they put out these solicitations, and most often the small businesses cannot bid because of the magnitude of the projects. So I'm not necessarily advocating for set-asides, but there should be some projects that are of a size where small businesses can bid as the prime contractor versus always having to seek out the larger companies and subcontract to them. So how do we ever become the prime if we're always a sub when we can never show past performance that we've managed the whole? So that's one thing that I've noticed. Another thing I've noticed is that when we are a subcontractor, when we're in these programs, that there is no real tracking of that information because some of the prime contractors are intentional about making sure that you don't get work. So they will write a letter of intent for you to sign that specifies, like if it's an on-call contract and they don't necessarily know whether the work is going to happen or not, but from their past experience, they know it's probably not going to happen. They will write you a letter of intent, issuing you a certain percentage saying, okay, we're going to have you do that type of work. That work never happens. And so they don't meet their goal. Small company or minority company doesn't get their portion of the business. And so there is no kind of consequences for that. And even when there is a letter of intent in place of work that you can perform, most often the large companies perform the work themselves because you don't know because the work is being issued directly to the prime and you have no clue that the work is being issued to the prime because there's no system for us to go look in to see, oh, well, this prime has already burned $5 million on this contract, so that we can even try to reach out to, bring resolution to the problem. Sometimes the contract is way far gone and there's no way to catch up. And then once you report it to the local municipality that this contractor did this, they burned all the money and didn't issue any of it to you, that same contractor can come back and bid on another contract, and there are no consequences for them not meeting what they said they were going to meet when they bid or proposed on the work. So I'm going to stop because I can be on here all day talking about all this. I'm going to let other people jump in and give their comments.
Thank you so much, Ms. Graham. Thank you so much for your comment. Ms. Carson, I see that you have your hand up.
Yes, I I was sitting here listening to Ms. Graham chomping at the bit. As I said, I am from New Jersey. My job with small minority and women-owned businesses is to do the exact thing that Ms. Graham says has experienced not happening with her. My job was to make sure that prime contractors submitted a plan as to how they intend to utilize minority and women-owned businesses throughout that contract, and it was up to me to make sure they did it. If they didn't do it, there were regulations in place that if contractors did not report on a monthly basis their activity, I was able to stop their money until they did comply. Did I stop money? Absolutely. How much money did I stop? The most I stopped was $20 million. So be it a large contract or a small contract, what has to be done is tracking has to be supported from the very beginning, from legislation to actually having someone physically be able to see what a contractor is or is not doing, and have the capacity and the legislation or regulations to act on it immediately. When I say immediately, within 30 days, if a contractor did not submit a corrected plan as to how they were going to utilize minority and women-owned businesses within 30 days, I could stop their money or could stop their work on the job, period. So this way, we're supporting the small businesses by ensuring that the contractors do what they're supposed to do. But again, these are the kinds of things that I said I'd like to talk to you about offline. But what Ms. Graham's saying, I've heard those kinds of problems, and in New Jersey, for the department I worked with, which was the Department of Environmental Protection, which is a very specialized department, we were able to make sure that we had the regulations in place so that no contractor was able to say, oh, we do all the work, we don't need small minority and women-owned businesses. And then we tell them that they have to practice reciprocity. What was once done for them, they have to now do for someone else. So that way, the small business can start to develop a contract, develop a track record with not only one contractor, but with various contractors. So, but again, it comes with the commitment from the county.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, Ms. Carson. If you don't mind, can you state your business for me, your business name for me? I don't think I got that before.
I'm sorry. My business is the Carson Consortium. I specialize in art, conservation, and restoration. I specialize in African art, conservation, and restoration.
Yeah, thank you so much. I saw someone else had their hand raised and then they took it down.
That was me, Angela Graham, but I'm trying to give everyone a chance to participate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there somebody? Okay, so there's a couple other things. I've seen certain jurisdictions do mentor-protege relationships, which they make you create this document between you, the subcontractor, small company or minority company, and the prime contractor, And there's no real mentoring going on. They said there's reporting, it should be reporting, but that's not happening. And so I think mentor proteges, if done appropriately, will help provide some assistance to small companies, because a part of this is to grow the small companies such that they can become the prime and not always the sub. And I think one of the best vehicles to do that is joint ventures. And when I say joint ventures, I mean real joint ventures, where we are at the table, we're helping to make the decisions as the smaller minority companies. And it's not just on paper because you needed a minority or a small or a female business, you went and got one to team with as a joint venture partner, but you do everything and we know nothing. And I've seen that. So we need to know how you manage a joint venture, how you manage the financial aspects of a joint venture. You understand, how do you share the work with the other subs? How do you, as a joint venture partner, self-perform the work and make sure that you get your requisite share of the project? And I think we also have to deal with the things that are restrictive. I heard someone mention earlier bonding. I'm not saying bonding is a bad thing. I understand why it's there, but sometimes we bond projects unnecessarily because the risk is not there that would mandate that you need bonding. But sometimes that's very restrictive for small companies. So unless there's some sort of program that's going to help these small companies get bonding, that is something very, very difficult for small businesses to get. And it kind of keeps us from being able to perform at a level as a prime contractor. And I'll be quiet again.
Oh, thank you so much, Ms. Graham. I think when you speak, other people begin to speak. So, okay, I see Ms. Harris, your hand is raised.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Tanya Harris. I'm the owner of Tanya Mackey Harris LLC and doing business as Mental Health Moms. We are a Black woman-owned business and minority-owned business, of course. However, not certified in either of the two. My concerns are similar to Ms. Graham's and others that have spoken, that the opportunities of having joint ventures, true joint ventures, is a need, not just within Gwinnett County, but quite often we could do, we can submit proposals, but not identified as what has already been spoken. The primaries are automatically awarded. In my environment, it would be any healthcare carriers or Planned Parenthood that would automatically be awarded because of their longevity in their businesses. And I understand that, but I do believe that joint venture opportunities, if organizations that are moving to the Gwinnett County area, if they were required even more so, not necessarily just those that have built or established relationships with Gwinnett County, but those of us that have the expertise that truly want to service the communities, it would be of value for looking at startup businesses that really do want to service the community in different ways. Mental Health Moms, we support EAP programs and really coaching caregivers that are responsible for loved ones and really navigating care. So if they don't know how to set up SSI, SSA, Medicare, Medicaid, trust in the event of their passing, we coach them through that process with templates that guide them through the process. And so if I am trying to tie to organizations, to the government, to our jail systems to help families figure out ways that their children are not, as it says, 76% of mental health within our jail systems, I need a seat at the table to be able to do that. And so I'm one voice of a very few in this part of the industry. It's focused on mental health, but not necessarily on the caregivers fully at this point in our country. So those are my thoughts. those are my concerns, and I'll stop talking too.
No, y'all feel free to talk if there's anything else that comes up. Thank you so much, Ms. Harris, for your comments as well. All of these comments so far, they are very greatly appreciated. Is there anyone that has not spoken that would like to add to the conversation, or that has another personal anecdote that they want to share about their experiences?
Hello, can I be heard right now? I'm trying to figure out how to lift my hand, but I'm driving and doing this at the same time, so I'm walking and chewing gum right now.
Yes, sir, Mr. Stubbs, you're fine.
My experience with working with my name is Jamal Stubbs. I'm the owner of a Q&S Electrical Contractors. I've been able to procure some work with Gwinnett County, but my experience is, I guess, a little bit different. What I've noticed is we're really good at creating person-to-person relationships. But with myself being a first-time contractor with Gwinnett County, I think there's a little bit of a disconnect between actually doing the work and, I guess, the bean counters that are actually trying to maintain their budgets and so forth. And a lot of times I've come to realize that there's certain contractors that they're used to dealing with, and just because I kind of fell into the target of the type of contractor looking for as far as affordability and so forth, that now the ability for a larger contractor to have certain equipment that is already paid for and so forth, I'm kind of on the backside of trying to compete with those type of contractors, because, like, for instance, bucket trucks, they pretty much already have those, they're paid for and so forth, where I'm still renting that type of equipment. But Gwinnett County tends not to want to partner very well with contractors that are smaller, that are trying to establish themselves in the business. So the relationship tends to turn into kind of more of an adversarial type of thing, because I'm like, well, we're trying to provide a professional quality product for you guys, but at the same time, we're not able to recoup certain costs that we're having to experience, because the larger contractors kind of are able to eat certain costs that we're not able to eat. And so those are the kind of disparities that I'm experiencing, is that these larger contractors have already put themselves in the game, and it's harder for us to grow because we're realizing costs that they're not realizing. So that's pretty much my, I guess, hill to climb or whatever. I don't know if that's something that can be fixed through government, or if there's just something that, if that's just a hill that I got to figure out how to figure out.
No, thank you so much, Mr. Stubbs, for your comments. I heard a lot of things in your comments in terms of some areas of concern for you, in which where Gwinnett County, where they could potentially mitigate certain risk or what have you, to open up the door for smaller businesses. So your comment is definitely appreciated. I did hear some things that the county could do. Thank you so much for commenting. Are you certified, Mr. Stubbs? Is your business certified?
We are minority certified, small business certified as well.
Okay.
With GDOT and with City of Atlanta.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Mr. Stubbs. Is there anyone else that would like to add on to Mr. Stubbs' comment, or is there another comment that maybe he touched on something that spoke to you that you want to add on?
I'd like to say something.
Mm-hmm.
Our situation is a little different. My name is Stephanie Logan Setra. I'm the executive director for the Liberia Chamber of Commerce, located here in Gwinnett. And we mostly deal with funding with economic development and the community affairs department.
Mhm.
I find that there's no real policy or procedure that's outlined in regards to funding. We were active from 2021. The first year that we had an event, we do a yearly annual business expo where we have delegates from Liberia who enter and come in regards to that, we have local businesses, but we've also include minority-owned businesses here in Gwinnett, not just Liberian businesses. And the first year, Gwinnett Economic Development Department, they came in at the last minute. They were quite well with it, but there was nothing to say how much or a report given back to us as how much that they contributed to our event or anything. The following year, we went back to discuss funding and so forth, and there was a whole bunch of miscommunication and misclarification because according to what they said, they cannot fund because they fund as much because we've overextended our funding compared to last year, which we had no idea like how much money. There was no report or anything given to say how much money we spent. So how do we know what our cap is or what that was? So 2023 was the last year we dealt with them. We decided not to deal with Gwinnett County economics anymore and basically go our own route for personal funding and community outreach funding. And we had the same problem that we had with community affairs because part of our group, we do cultural affairs, an entertainment event for the community. And the community, I assume that the two departments are different when it came to funding, but the communication that they gave is that if this department is giving, this department can't. So it was a little confusing and there's no guidelines. Also to the fact that there are, I don't know how many chambers in Gwinnett County, there's no specific place that would list all of the chambers, which I think they should as an economic development because chambers do work for economic development in our county. So that I think that there should be a place where there's a list of those because everything is geared to go to Gwinnett Chamber and understand a lot of the people don't go to Gwinnett Chamber because there could be a cultural issue that they want to go to their own personal chambers, but everything is pushed towards that. Funding is pushed towards them and there's minimal funding for the other chambers. So that's where I find the disparity in regards to the chamber aspect and funding.
Thank you, Miss Logan Tetra. So a clarifying question that I have is basically from your perspectives, well, this is what I'm just hearing. Gwinnett County, there's like no public place where or public place where they give up their reports or their budgeting or funding per se of where they have money for certain things, and that's something that you would like for them to see, for them to be for that specific data to be more publicly available.
No, they have their budget. Even their 2025 projected budget is listed on their website. It's not in regards to the budget. It's not detail oriented to say there's a certain amount that's allocated, sorry, to chambers or whatever. It just says their budget is this amount or what. It's not detail oriented. My what would I say? My problem with them is that they do not, if you're working with, say we work with economic development, so let's just use that as an example. There's no guidelines to say, okay, if you're a chamber, this is the total amount that you would be able to get funding for community events and so forth. They do allocate funds that they give out for community events, but nowhere is there stating, okay, how much is our cap? Is there a criteria? Do you have to have a certain amount of members? Do you have to be a certain amount of years? There's no cap on it. But when they fund you for the next year, they base it off of the funding that they gave you the previous year, but nothing has been on record to say how much the total amount of funding is. Like take for instance, the first year they paid for the tents. They paid for the tents for our event for the vendors. We don't know the total cost for those because obviously as the city, they would probably, or the county, sorry, they would get a discount or whatever, but we don't know the amount. So they use the amount that they funded us the previous year in regards to funding for the following year, which we still don't have an account of how much was that amount. So you're using that cap as a template for funding for this year when that information isn't publicly shared with us.
Okay, so you would like it whenever they do provide you with the information, if it was a little bit more detail oriented and it gave you a breakdown of certain things in terms of
and just processes. Like if I was to apply or get funding from any organization, there'd be a process. There would be documents that I'd have to present and so forth. None of that was done. And I believe in 2023, the last thing they asked us for a report. And I was like, how are you asking us for a report when you haven't even given us a report? We have no idea how much funding that you said, because it isn't like funds are being transferred with us personally, like funds aren't giving to us. They are just contacting the vendors or whatever they are committing to for any events that we may have in regards to economic growth here. So if we have an event that's a geared towards economic growth in Gwinnett, that is the issue that I'm having. There's no transparency.
Okay, that's understood. Thank
And
you so much.
equality, because everything is geared, like I said, one way for funding. And that is on their budget.
Okay. That this is all noted. Thank you so much, Ms. Stephanie, for your comments. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? I know it is after 2 o'clock, and I know I only had an hour with you guys, with everyone on the call, but I do want to make sure that I'm allowing everyone the opportunity to still speak. So is there anyone else that would like to add to the conversation? There's been a lot of different things that have been covered in the last 30 minutes that I would love to see if other people had any other comments or anecdotes they would like to give.
I did want to ask this question. This is Tanya Harris again. Is it possible for the county to make inclusive of minority or minority-owned businesses or small business owners a platform annually where we could learn of the initiatives based on categories, of course, of the initiatives that they're planning for the year? And maybe that's something that's already present. I'm just not aware of it. But I think it would be wonderful if we would have that exposure. And what is it specifically that they're looking for, even if it's at a high level perspective, some meeting, some Zoom, something to that effect, I think would be helpful. And then to all the other points that have already been spoken, joint venture kind of opportunities that are real, not necessarily just documented joint ventures, but that are realistic for us to be engaged in, I think would be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harris. Those are also great points to add to the conversation. Is there anyone else?
I can add something to that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, they have the Economic Development Department. They have a coffee and conversations. It's on their website. So, and I've attended those before. You can go and ask the Gwinnett County officials and the people in the Economic Development Department questions. It's a, very casual coffee and conversations. And that's at least one forum that's open for people who want to, voice their concerns or ask questions.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's actually taking place tomorrow morning. So that's the first time I've seen that. I don't know if that's something new for Gwinnett County. I am a resident of Gwinnett County as well, but I haven't seen that before.
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
they have, excuse me, they have done it in the past. Yeah, it's not the first one. It's an
Okay,
ongoing
thank you.
thing that they have. Mhm.
This is Angela Graham one more time. One other thing for consideration as this is forming into a program, they have to consider insurance requirements. We understand why we need insurance. We understand the commercial, auto, umbrella, workers' comp, all of that, professional, excess liability, all of those things. But sometimes they will require the sub to have the same insurance as the prime. Well, if my work is only going to amount to $500,000, why am I still required to have the same amount of coverage as the large company that's going to make $20 million. Do you understand what I'm saying? So there's something that we're dealing with on a project I'm working on right now, where the subs are coming to us saying we need help because we can't carry this kind of insurance. It's cost prohibitive. So we want to make sure people are covered and that the client is covered. But if the work, it has to make sense. So I should not be asking for a $10 million umbrella policy if you're not going to have about $500,000 worth of work, if that makes sense. So I'm hoping that there's a way that people think through this stuff logically, and make sure that what we're doing actually makes sense and not just do it just because that's what has always been done.
Thank you so much, Ms. Graham. That's it. That's also a great recommendation, in terms of something that you would like the county to do. Okay, is there anyone else? There are a lot of people on this call that have not given a comment yet. So I would love to hear from those who have not spoken. If there's anything that you have to add. And again, I know that we have been discussing areas of concern. We also are welcoming any positive feedback as well. So if there are any experiences that you've had where your experience that has been great, that's wonderful, and we would love to hear about that as well. And also, as Ms. Graham has spoken about her experiences with other surrounding places, if that's something that you would also like to speak about, in terms of if there's something that you would like Gwinnett to do that other prior jurisdictions or agencies have been doing, you could also speak to that as well. So we're open to all of those types of commentary.
I would like to add to Ms. Graham's comment about insurance and the liability issue. That definitely impacts small business, but I'm wondering if there's a way to answer if there is a liability. Of course, it would amount to whatever it amounts to, but is there a way to like add a percentage or maybe speak to insurance companies or where the prime is providing the insurance, but maybe the small business can be added to that policy in a percentage basis or something? I don't know. I'm not in insurance. I don't know, but if maybe is that a possibility so that the cost isn't so enormous?
So one of the projects I'm on right now, we are looking at, because sometimes a prime can add the small company on if their insurance company will allow for that. But sometimes the local jurisdictions will help with the insurance. Sometimes that's a billable cost, you know, versus going through and everybody just gets their own separate insurance. Sometimes they have these programs that you can go through directly through that jurisdiction. So there's different ways to skin the cat. I just think we need to come up with a way that works and not put that heavy burden out there on that small company because they just can't afford it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Graham, for your insight. And also thank you so much, Ms. Whitaker, for your feedback as well about that insurance requirement being a barrier for small businesses. What about, are there any other barriers that small businesses are facing in Gwinnett County that haven't been spoken about or highlighted yet? Is there anything else that anyone would like to add on in regards to that conversation? No. Okay. Well, it is almost 2:10 on this today. It is 2:10. So we are 10 minutes after the closing of the session. Still, a lot of people that are on this call have not spoken, so I do just want to give a final call for anyone that would love to submit a comment, to please do so at this time. So I'll take the next couple of minutes to just wait to see if there's anyone else who has not spoken to add to the conversation.
I have spoken, but I just wanted to ask, what are the next steps beyond this conversation, the informational today? I heard you say earlier that there's going to be a series of them, but how else are you hopeful that we'll get engaged?
Yeah, so we have another session that's next week on the 19th. We have anecdotal interviews that are wrapping up right now. And then we also have our focus group sessions, which we are calling firms about that'll happen in December. And then also a survey. We do have that survey that is live right now, which also reminds me to drop that in the chat for everyone to fill out. Again, the survey is live, and once you complete, you're entered in a raffle for $100, $100 gift card. So just want to put that out there. But these are the next methods that we have in terms of our anecdotal analysis, in terms of where people can have the chance to speak and give any comments. We also have our email and our study website. So for those who aren't comfortable in speaking on this public platform, they could use those two methods as well to solicit some comments. Because I do understand if there's a nervousness there of speaking on a public platform, and this is sensitive information that we're talking about. So we do understand if people would like to submit any comments through those two methods, you can. And then all of that will get analyzed and then will be compiled into a chapter. And that'll be ready at the beginning of next year. But also on top of that, we have our data analyses going on and our private sector analysis. We have different ways of where we're looking at that to identify if there are any disparities going on within the county. But in terms of the anecdotal process, that's the anecdotal process. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so again, I'll do one last call, and if there's not anyone else, then we can wrap up the session. Let me also just drop the email in here as well as the website for everyone.
Can I say one last thing that just popped into my head?
Yes, ma'am.
Sometimes when the RFT or an ITB hits the street and the larger companies are trying to form teams, most often they're just trying to pull together the most politically correct team, the team with the most political connections, right? And they'll add some people that have the technical ability to get the job done. But what I'm seeing is that a lot of the small companies are offered 1% just to have their name on the team because they may be connected to certain people in one way, shape, or another. 1%, 2%, 3% on fairly large projects. And what that does is it makes a small company continue to chase their tails around in a circle, because the little bit of work that they get is not even an FTE on some of the work where you're self-performing and have, billable hours. It's not even a half FTE, and the work starts and then it stops, and then they'll call you 6 months later. There's a cycle that it creates for small businesses when they put you on a team and say, oh, okay, you do public involvement or public engagement, we're going to give you 1%. There has to be another way to do this. Even for an electrical contractor on a project, I've seen 3%. I'm like, it makes no sense. So there has to be a way where the teams make sense, and the purpose of the team needs to be to meet the client need, not to build the most politically correct team, because you're just wanting to make sure you can count your votes. And that's where I think we get off task. Now, I know there's a level of that that's gonna happen. And I can't control that, and neither can probably Gwinnett County. But there has to be a way that the small companies aren't subjected to, because they're gonna take whatever they can get, but it's always the crumbs. And so we have to figure out a way where we're not giving them work that kind of defeats the purpose. They can't grow from a 1% on a contract that's $3 million. They just can't, even if they get the work. So that is my last comment today.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. A clarifying question. Are you referencing the goals that are usually on contracts that certain primes are trying to solicit subs to meet those goals on the contract? Is that
Yeah.
what you're referencing?
So if a county or a city has a 20% requirement that you
Right.
have to meet for LSBE, SLBE, MBE,
Mm-hmm.
they'll divvy that 20% up among, let's say they put 7 to 8 people on the team. But they're putting people on the team that the 1% is just, I've seen it on a $3 million contract. And I've seen, let's say there's 7 people on the team that are subs and they're all small businesses, and 3 or 4 of them get 1%.
Okay.
That's what they submit in their letter of intent when they submit the proposal to the local jurisdiction. And sometimes they don't even get that 1%. But even if they do, you can't really build a business like that, because you're spreading yourself on all these contracts at 1%, 2%, 1%, 2%. It's a cycle that has to stop.
Yeah, so you're basically saying they're taking the goal that's already placed on the contract, and then they're crumbling down that goal to different firms.
Right. And they
Right.
can do it to different firms, but let it make sense and be meaningful.
Right.
And 1% is just, I don't know how you grow. When I see this one company out here, and that's something that happens to this company repeatedly. Now, a lot of small companies don't understand that they have a voice. So they feel that if they say something, they're going to be blackballed. They'll take whatever little bit they can get. I'd rather not say anything. They don't realize that they have a voice. So that's where some of the problem comes in, right? But this one company I've seen for years now get on teams and they offer 1% and they just take it. They don't negotiate it or whatever. But even if they tried to negotiate it, most of the large companies are so powerful, they really won't win that fight.
Got it. Thank you for that comment. That's my first time hearing something like that happening. So thank you so much for that comment.
You're welcome.
Okay.
So maybe it'd be a percentage per, or a number per subcontractors per each bid. If you have to choose, if it's a standard that says you have to have small businesses at 30%. Are you saying, Ms. Graham, that it should be locked at 3 people at 10% apiece?
Yeah, and you can't really,
Or are you?
yeah,
do that.
I guess what I'm saying is, we understand, so there's a 20% or 30% requirement. A lot of small companies grow by having like new experiences to do new work. But the large companies kind of push them into one little thing, like let's say it's public engagement, and that's going to be 1%. Well, there may be opportunities to grow that company by allowing them to do other things on this project, whether they've done them before or not. That's the whole point of these types of programs. That's how I've grown. I've done things I've never done before. But somebody has to give you the opportunity to do that. If the programs were designed such that I don't think you can give a number, because all the projects are different as to how many subs and at what percentage each sub can get, but there has to be some sort of minimum cutoff for that. I don't know. I don't know if that's the solution, but it has to be another way to help grow these small companies and minority or female companies. And that what they're doing, and I've seen it over and over again, is not a solution. They're not doing that company a favor, because that company still has to have insurance. You see what I'm saying? This is why it doesn't make, the insurance starts to really not make sense then. So I
Yeah,
think
no, I totally get the insurance part
yeah,
because
I
we've
think it's
had that
more of a
experience several
conversation.
times.
Yeah, I think it's more of a conversation we have to figure out and let some of those people come to the table, because I'm going to invite them to be on these calls because they need to be speaking to this. It happened to me early on, but that was 20 years ago. But I put my foot down. You see what I'm saying? But like I said, a lot of the small companies don't know they have a voice.
I have a follow-up question to that. Miss Graham is so knowledgeable. Thank you so much for bringing this. I'm so brand new to this. A lot of the terms that are being spoken, I don't know. So I have to go to Google and type in what is FTE just to find out. But nevertheless, I found out.
Okay.
Um, so thank you for, pushing us toward understanding and knowing, and digging for more information to come to the table, because as a minority, we don't know. But my follow-up question is regarding the little pieces that are being divvied out. Is it possible that the prime contractors that get the contract that says 30% has to go to a minority, is it possible for the study to go to Gwinnett to say, of this 30%, if 1% or less is offered to a subcontractor, that it has to be other areas that are open and given to the subcontractor that would equal no less than 5% or something like that.
Yeah, and let me be clear. The prime contractor has to mitigate risk, right? So you have to take so many things into consideration. You would ask them, would you be open to allowing this small company to perform work outside of their area of expertise? That increases their risk, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the first thing they're going to say. I'm not saying what I'm saying is the solution. I'm just throwing out ideas, but there has to be a way that if we get the brain power in the room, that we can come up with a solution, include the big companies in the room, that we can come up with a solution to just putting people on the team for political reasons. And sometimes it's, oh, well, this is an on-call contract. I'm not sure if this work is going to happen, but chances are it's not really going to happen. So you give them 1% and they never get any work, or you give them 1% and the work is so sporadic and it's all over the place, and they may, work 40 hours over here and not work for 6 months and that kind of thing. I think this is a bigger conversation. I don't think we can come to a solution today, but I do think there's a way to get there. But I do think the small, medium, and large companies need to be in the room, or be a part of the survey, or whatever it is that's going to be done.
Yes, okay, thank you so much, Ms. Graham, again for your comments. And thank you everyone who has spoken today. We are nearing 2:30. So I don't want to keep everyone that much longer. So I would like to wrap up the call if there is nothing else that anyone else who has not spoken that would like to add. I did see a couple of people log onto the call maybe a few minutes ago. So for those who did just log on, if there was something that you wanted to add to the conversation, I'll give you this chance to speak. I think it was I see a Roscoe Harris that joined the call a little late, and a Patrina Johnson. If there's anything that you all would like to add to the conversation right now, would be the time to speak. Okay, so if not, I did drop a couple of resources in the chat for everyone. I have the study email, so for those who did log on and were just listening and did not feel comfortable to speak, we have the Gwinnett County Study at gspclaw.com email for you all to submit comments. We have our website, www.gwinnettcountydisparitiesstudy.com. For you all to find out more information about the study. Again, the informational meeting sessions are on there and they're available for everyone who wants to know a little bit more information about what we're doing. And then as well, we have the survey up there for you all to fill out. And again, I want to say, when you fill out the survey, you will be entered into a raffle to receive a $100 gift card. I know everybody likes free money, so I just want to make sure I highlight that. So yes, that's all I do have. Again, thank you everyone so much for the fruitful conversations. I have enjoyed the time of speaking with everyone. Please pass the word on about the public hearing session next week. And again, thank you so much. And I will send out any more emails to anyone about any of the future events that we have. I do see one more hand up. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Andrea. I'm with 58 Logistics,
Mhm.
and I was just wanting to say I don't have much to add to the conversation. I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you to everyone that did speak up. This is my first time attending one of these meetings, and I am a small business. I am SLBE certified, DBE certified, women-owned certified, and minority-owned. So, but this is my first rodeo in this arena. So I wanted to say thank you to you and everyone that spoke up for the small businesses, and they know what to do to make these changes. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
No problem. Thank you so much, Ms. Pace. Okay. So yeah, as I did say, I have those resources and this in the chat room for everyone to look at. Just along with Ms. Pace, I am very grateful for everyone that did submit a comment today. Thank you all so much. I hope everyone has a great, wonderful rest of your day and a wonderful rest of your week. Thank you. Bye-bye.